So if you've ever felt just a little bit weird or even tongue-tied trying to sell your consulting services, you are not alone. I've worked with so many smart and capable professionals, but when it comes time to sell themselves, not someone else or someone else's product, but their own services, everything gets hard. And it can even feel a little bit awkward. And then you're just left second-guessing yourself, wondering if you've said too much or too little, or if you blew the sale altogether. And honestly, this makes perfect sense. It's really difficult to sell yourself and let people know how you can help them. And the reason why this is difficult is many of us have been trained to sell in a way that's really pushy or overly scripted. But here's the good news, bad news. When you're stepping into selling premium services, particularly consulting, none of that stuff works anyway. So it's better just to leave it at the door and try something else. So today I'm going to share with you how to sell consulting services in a way that feels really natural and conversational, that's helpful and adds value without feeling like you need to be overly pushy or difficult when you are presenting your offer. So before we dive in, I just want to introduce myself if we haven't had a chance to meet. My name is Meyer, and I help smart experts like you start consulting businesses. I consult myself to some of the fastest growing brands in the country. And one of my favorite things to do is to help people with a great professional background, whether they're entrepreneurs or agency owners or coming from corporate, get started in consulting. So whether you're signing your first client or you're ready to raise your rates, this video is really going to help you. Let's dive in. So the first tip that I want to provide you is that selling starts before the selling even happens. It's all in how you position your offer. And the thing is, I see so many smart professionals and experts and business owners really struggle here. They care deeply about helping, which is the foundation of a great sales conversation. But the way that they've structured their offer is way too broad, way too general. They end up helping everybody with everything, which makes it really, really hard to sell and deliver that offer. And that ambiguity shows up in the way that they sell. Because suddenly what could be just an easy, flowing, grounded conversation ends up being the consultant feeling like they need to prove their worth the entire time. So here's what I want you to remember. Clients don't pay for your hours, they pay for your thinking. And not only do they pay for your thinking, but they pay for how that thinking creates value in their organization. So how do you fix this? The first thing is that you get really intentional about how you talk about your work. You make sure that you are shifting from somebody who can help to a strategic partner. You show up online, in your conversations, in your social media content, as somebody who has an elevated approach to problem solving, not somebody who just blends in with the masses. This one shift in your messaging can change everything. The reason is that when people come into a sales conversation and see you as a thought partner, not somebody who's a hired hand, you're no longer having to convince them of anything. You're simply clarifying how you can help. The second step is to follow a process that feels collaborative in nature. A lot of times traditional sales trainings, which I have been on the receiving end of and I've helped create for some pretty big brands, they can be really, really hard to follow when it comes to selling premium consulting services. Because when you're selling premium consulting services, you are selling to an educated buyer. They can tell if you are following a script or you're trying to get them to close with traditional methods. Chances are they've attended those sales trainings themselves and they've seen those same exact scripts. You don't need to follow typical sales strategies and methods that maybe you've been trained in, but you really don't want to use. What you do want to do is you want to follow a simple process that positions you as a trusted advisor from the very beginning of the conversation. The other trap that I see a lot of new consultants fall into is they feel like they need to prove their value so much that they end up over-explaining and over-teaching during the sales call. It's kind of like, let me prove to you how much I know so that you end up wanting to hire me. But what actually builds trust isn't talking, it's listening. This is exactly where my collaborative close comes in. This is a system that I have used to close millions of dollars in consulting revenue, and I've helped thousands of my students do the same. So let me just give you a quick summary of how it works. The first step in the collaborative close is to set the stage. The purpose of this is just to set expectations. So the person that you're speaking with knows exactly how the conversation is going to go to make sure that they're bought in on the process from the very first few minutes of the call. I usually say something like this: here's how I'm hoping today would go. At first, I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions just to make sure that I fully understand your business and I am giving you the best possible recommendation. Then at the end of the conversation, I'll let you know if I can help, what my experience has been solving a similar type of problem that you may be experiencing, and what the next best steps are. And at that time, you're welcome to ask me any questions that you want as well. Does that sound good? It's usually some variation of that. And immediately, the person that you're speaking to relaxes. They're like, okay, this individual has it under control. They know what they're talking about. They have a process. It's actually really nice for them to know that you're going to go ahead and lead and you're just going to ask questions. And you're here first and foremost just to make sure that you can actually help them. The second step is to ask really thoughtful questions. Inside of my programs, I go into exactly what questions in a lot of detail. But here's a few to help you get started. If you were to wave a magic wand, where would you want to be a year from now? What are some of the things that you've tried and what worked well or not well to solve this problem? So instead of just jumping in with a bunch of solutions where you may be off the mark and lose trust completely, what you want to do is seek to understand. Make sure that you're doing way more listening than you are talking, and I can promise you that anybody that you do this with will feel really seen and heard, and it will be an incredibly refreshing conversation for them compared to other sales conversations that they've had. And finally, you always want to reflect back what you heard. Because a lot of times the leader that you're speaking with or the CEO or the founder, they finally have somebody that's listening to them that they can just unload on. And what you'll find is that they're just going and going and going. You might even need to say, hold on one second. I just need to make sure that I understand what I think I just heard. So in this instance, you want to mirror it back with language like, okay, so what I'm hearing is, and then summarize what it is that you think you heard that is the biggest challenges that they're having, what they've tried, what's worked, what hasn't worked, and what that particular leader believes is the biggest reason why they haven't hit this goal. It doesn't mean that you're going to agree with them on what they think the problem is. But what we're doing here is we're just trying to understand their perspective, what they believe is the reason why this is still a lingering issue and an issue that's big enough to be talking to a consultant about it. So at this point, you've asked great questions, you listened carefully, and you have built trust. Now it's time to close the sale. And here's the cool thing about this process. It doesn't feel like a close at all. It just feels like two smart people making an intelligent, mutual decision. So this is not a moment where we start pitching or overpromising. That's going to lead to bigger problems down the road. And that energy can actually break the trust that you just spent 45 minutes building. So instead of overpromising, just offer them a working hypothesis. It might go something like this. Based on everything that you've shared, I do think I could help. This would be my approach. What do you think? From there, you can just walk them through a big picture overview of what it would be like for the two of you to work together. And then I ask them one of my favorite questions, which is, what do you want to do from here? It immediately puts the decision back in their hands. It also detaches you from the outcome. And detaching yourself from the outcome of a sales call can feel really hard at first. But it's actually what makes people, especially educated buyers, want to move forward. Because educated buyers don't want to feel sold to. They want to feel seen. So make sure that you're not giving them too many ideas, too many steps, too much information during this process. All you want to do during a sales call is to prove to them that you clearly understand what it is that they're struggling with, and you've given them a few ideas on how you can help. This process, this collaborative approach is what will get you to yes. So if sales has ever felt awkward or just out of alignment for you, I hope this video has helped you and provided you with some encouragement that you can do it in a softer way, a more collaborative way, a more thoughtful way. And as a result, it starts becoming something that you can feel really good about. You can genuinely say to people, which is something I say all the time, let's jump on a call. I'll let you know if I can help you or not, and I can promise you either way, you'll leave with value. And if this all sounds great and you're ready to take the next step as a consultant, I've developed a really valuable ebook. It's quite extensive on how to convert your expertise into a premium in-demand consulting offer. So this is the exact same method that I have used to generate millions of dollars in consulting revenue and helped thousands of my students build their dream businesses, simply by following a proven process that I've developed over the years. So make sure you check that out in the description. It is a wonderful ebook to help you get started, and I'll look forward to seeing you in the next video.